Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says the new wave of porn cropping up on AI is not only non-consensual, but akin to sexual assault. She's introduced legislation to try to stop it. Let's watch.
Over 90% of all the images and video that's being developed by AI right now is sexually exploitative and non-consensual and targeting women. This is sexual violence. Over the last couple months, I've worked behind the scenes with phenomenal colleagues in the House and the Senate from both Republican and Democratic parties to start to put an end to this, and that is known as the Defiance Act. The Defiance Act is a bipartisan piece of legislation that we currently have introduced in the House and Senate that would update the Violence Against Women Act in order to create what is known as a civil course of action for victims and survivors of non-consensual AI deepfake porn. So what does that mean? What that means is that if you are a victim or survivor of AI deepfake pornography, you will start to have federal protections where you can begin to pursue accountability in court for perpetrators of and people who generate, perpetrate, and spread this kind of imagery against you.
AOC, who herself has been a victim of non-consensual deepfake AI porn, told Rolling Stone, quote, "It parallels the same exact intention of physical rape and sexual assault. It is about power, domination, and humiliation. Deepfakes are absolutely a way of digitizing violent humiliation against other people."
The issue is also impacting students and teachers nationwide. Politico reports that 20 states have passed laws penalizing the dissemination of non-consensual AI-generated pornographic materials. Despite this, when the fake images and videos of students and educators are discovered, what happens next in schools in terms of who gets disciplined, how minors are treated, and who is responsible for taking images to the police varies widely depending on the state. The report goes on to say that in the absence of federal action, some school systems aren't mandated to report deepfake incidents to law enforcement, and administrators say they need help. This seems like a no-brainer to me, Jessica. This is obviously a violation. This is intended to humiliate women, and it's obviously non-consensual. 84% of voters support legislation making deepfake porn illegal. This is according to the Artificial Intelligence Policy Institute. 86% support legislation actually requiring companies to make the AI models incapable of creating deepfake porn, and a vast majority thinks that individuals and companies who do it should be held liable. You see bipartisan consensus on this. AOC on the left, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin. On the right, you see Josh Hawley, Nancy Mace. Pretty much everybody seems to agree that this is completely unacceptable.
Right, you have Klobuchar, Durbin, and Hawley coming together to introduce the Defiance Act in the Senate. That was back in January on the 30th. I think it goes to show sort of the power AOC has with her public platform to be able to get the message out. Because actually, it was in the middle of January. I believe January 16th, you had Joe Morrell introduce his version of taking action on this issue, the Preventing Deepfakes of Intimate Images Act, really focusing on making it a criminal offense to disseminate these images or these videos. And I think that's important, that we need legislation that's it's preventative in a way where it's not doing so through punishment. It's trying to stop it on the onset, preventing websites from taking the risk of publishing something that someone else made using AI, that's deepfake pornography. That's not to say the Defiance Act is useless. Of course it's great. It's a good bill that would add a civil right of action if there were digital forgeries and they can prove that they were non-consensual and intended to replicate the identity of someone else, and letting victims sue for compensation and damages. That's very important. I'm not sure how much money the people making these have or if they're making a lot of money off of it, but it's important that there's recourse because the damage caused by something like this is huge. It can have repercussions for your career if someone doesn't know it's AI and it's really well done and it looks really, really real. but also emotionally, just in your personal life, with your relationships, with your partner, with your family, with your children. So I think it's really important we take action on this. And this didn't start with Taylor Swift being deep-faked. Last September, a cohort of all 50 attorneys general wrote letters to the Senate and to leaders in the House, and they said we have to do something about this issue.
You're right. And I think people should understand, if they're having a hard time grappling with why this is an issue, it's basically akin to someone pulling a peeping Tom, standing outside of your window while you're getting changed, for example, and taking pictures of you and disseminating those without your consent or knowledge. It's essentially the same thing. And granted, it's not your real body that's being put into this deepfake porn, but it gives the effect to look like you are willfully participating in pornographic material without your knowledge or consent. It's frankly disgusting. The school aspect of it is really fascinating because it plays into this trend that we've been hearing more and more about of cyberbullying and other sort of social and emotional issues stemming from the use of smartphones in schools. A lot of young people have reported being the victims of cyberbullying because people don't only have, the ability to text after school, but they have the access to social media directly from their phone all day long inside of schools. Some schools have actually taken measures to prevent students from having their phones in school. They have these Wi-Fi blocking pouches in some schools that students have to put their phone in during the school day so that they can't even access it. There are other schools that require you to have your phone turned off in your backpack, and if you take it out, you get suspended. But as noted in that Politico report, there seems to be a lot of lack of will among teachers and administrators to actually enforce both the bans on phones, and then in this case, they don't seem to know what to do about the deepfake porn because it's sort of uncharted territory. But I can imagine for a high school girl, if something like this fake image of you engaging in some sexual act or even just naked gets shared around all your classmates, that can be something that feels like it's life-ending.
Absolutely, especially at that age. To be a young girl, to be dealing with guys being creepy without this technology is terrible. Growing up in this new age, it's uncharted territory. We don't have laws in place about it yet. And so there's going to be a lot of horror stories, I think, before something legislatively happens that is effective. That's not to say I'm thinking this won't pass. I believe it will. It has significant bipartisan support. And we're also seeing a lot of state legislators take action on this. One bill that caught my eye in particular was in Kentucky, which intended to ban and criminalize deepfake porn. And they tacked on, they were like, well, while we're here and we're addressing this yucky, disgusting behavior, we're going to tack on laws that prevent the sale of child sex dolls. And it's just really sad that we're at this point in time where there's the manufacturing capacity who's willing to make these and sell them because there's a market for them. But also technology-wise, that people can create this deepfake porn. It's good people are taking action on it, but it's also disgusting to read these bills and see what's necessary.
Yeah, and I think there's this mindset that sort of ties these two things together in regards to the deepfake porn and the child sex dolls, which is there's this sort of cancerous, toxic mindset among some people that if you create these alternative means for people to basically release their sexual desires in a way that's not criminal or not actually abusing another person, then that's somehow acceptable. Like they say that, pedophiles, if they have access to child porn or child sex dolls, then they won't actually do it to a child. Or if they have the ability to create a deep fake of someone that they want to sleep with and they can't, then instead of raping them, they'll just, use the deep fake porn. And I think that's a really awful way of looking at it. It's obviously also not true. There's no evidence that this actually prevents people. If anything, indulging in these wicked behaviors actually encourages them to go further, to continue to try to get that dopamine rush from engaging in this harmful behavior. So I definitely don't buy that at all. I think if there's one positive out of what's happening with the AI deepfakes is that more people are seeing just how dangerous this tool and technology can be. And this is one of the first real very harmful potential uses of it that we've seen come out. And I think people are starting to wonder, okay, well, what else is this technology capable of? And what other ways could this actually harm humanity as opposed to just being a tool that could potentially assist us in some ways? There's obviously going to be negative consequences when we introduce a new technology with this much power as well.
You make some good points. I don't think there really is an argument on the other side, given what you've said. for there being these child sex dolls? Is a pedophile less likely to commit a crime against a child because of the existence of these dolls? I don't know. Was the invention of the mocktail to reduce the amount of alcoholics in our society? Where alcoholics like, oh my God, now I have this other thing. No, of course not.
Right.
I don't think the prevalence of this alternative really even is an alternative at all. It's almost like, is marijuana a gateway drug, or were those people going to do drugs anyway? Are these people asking the dolls for consent? I kind of feel the same way about life-size or adult-size sex dolls as well. It seems to me that the type of person that's attracted to these things is someone who is very likely to commit a crime anyway, and I don't see it as a preventative thing. It's almost like, while I'm not doing that, at least I have this. It really feels just disgusting in that way. I don't think there's any reason for them to be sold at all.
No, plus we also have this direct evidence that as pornography has become more violent, that individuals are engaging in more violent behavior in their actual physical sexual encounters. Like, one of the most disturbing trends I've seen from the rise of pornography in the United States specifically is that more and more women report being choked during sex every year. So the idea that these things that we view on the internet or do in our solo time are somehow divorced from the way that we treat other humans obviously just hasn't been borne out to be true.
Absolutely, yeah. We also have this problem of just phone calls being deep fake AI, and so many older people that can't differentiate, assuming that they are real. But thankfully, this isn't the deepfake porn isn't the type of issue that can be addressed very quickly by an agency in the United States. And sometimes it's good that there's a slower process for legislation passing. But I think it is good that the Federal Communications Commission back in February did designate AI-generated phone calls using cloned voices or artificial or pre-recorded voices as well. There's already a law about that. So they're designating that these AI-generated voices are already illegal because they're saying they're artificial. And so this is under the TCPA, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. So just them being very clear about this makes it so that it's illegal. So if that does happen to someone, it might be hard to find out who's on the other side of the phone call. But at least now, because it's illegal, there's a way to investigate, and there's some recourse there, because a lot of people have lost a lot of money. I can't imagine, this being used in more extreme cases. Most of the time, we're seeing it's fraud.
Yeah, we've seen some disturbing stories come out about, especially elderly people who believe that a child of theirs is calling or some family member asking them for money, and they end up getting scammed because of these deepfakes. There's a lot to tackle with AI, and I don't even think especially, Congress certainly hasn't because they don't know anything. But I think most people probably haven't really grappled with just how many things we have to worry about that could be affected by this technology. But obviously, we're going to cover it here on Rising, so stick around. We're going to be back with more after this.